Expressions and we are in the streets of Gandhi Square, and I'll be your street general for namhlanje. Sithetha ngomba of very interesting young women becoming slay queens.
I wouldn't say it's wrong because people do what they have to do and what they do by their own means. So I wouldn't judge them because it's their own way of making a living.
Majority of them, probably 85%, they are out to look for money.
Bazenza ama-slay queens just to get money from men.
So those were some of very interesting comments from young people on the ground. With that said, we want to say hello, Dumelang Sambanane, a very warm welcome to your #1 youth current affairs show, Expressions. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jackie Mapala.
With having important conversations ohlelweni. Namhlanje we are talking about young women who give sexual favors in order for them to have a lavish lifestyle. Jackie, call them what you may. Some may call them slay queens. Godwa, we want to know what you have to say about the conversation that we're having ohlelweni namhlanje. Do interact with us enkundleni zethu zokuxhumana.
Yes, because when it comes to this particular culture around slay queens, the question we always ask ourselves is it worth it? Is it worth it to pay the price that you have to pay? And we know that when it comes to slay queens, this is a mainstream term that has actually been popularized by young people on the ground. But before we get into this very important conversation, here's an insert that we prepared for you. Take a look at this.
Namhlanje ke Expressions lapha eRoderport sawudibana with a young lady sinqokole naye uNosipho Mbokazi. She has seen it all from receiving flashy gifts to e-wallets from the blessers. Kodwa into bengayazi ukuba uzawudibana nembila zithutha.
This whole blesser culture thing, it happened back when I was 18. So it was just a situation whereby maybe pure pressure. I wanted to be the cool girl because everybody was doing it at the time. It wasn't even a situation whereby I was introduced. I remember Mingsebenza, right? And I'm waiting for a bus, and then this old man parks his car and is like, "Hey, I really like you. Can I give you a ride?" I'm late, obviously, so I tell him, "Yeah, sure," because I'm late. And then he ends up taking me to work and then giving me money. Fast forward, he calls me when I get to work, like, "Are you okay? I'd like to fetch you or have some lunch or whatever." And I'm like, "Mina, okay, sure." And that's how it started. In the beginning stages, it's always nice, let's tell you lunch at work, fetches you, you feel like you're a princess. There's the controlling side that people don't speak about, which I don't understand. Why do they not actually touch on the controlling side? Because I feel like also men understand that if a woman is financially dependent on me, then I have power. He would just randomly, at random, say, "I want to nude." Haibo, I'm sleeping. It was a bit ridiculous, but then because he was sponsoring me financially, I had to do it to make him happy.
So you'd send him nudes?
Yeah. Yeah. He would dictate what I wear, the hairstyle that I have, how long I have a hairstyle, where I go. He would say things like, "Yeah, if we ever break up, you're never gonna you're not gonna have any other relationship outside of me, or your relationships are not gonna make it to a year." So sihambe siyobika from the prophet, and then the prophet is like, "Unesichitho, you actually have a spiritual husband, and that's why your relationships are not going well." And then khona umuntu you've been bound. Angazi uyichaze kanjani, but I've been bound. Yeah, there's a soul tie. Inhlanhla yakho is going to another party. So I had to undergo cleansing, koqala ngapeyitwa, ngagezwa, ngeswasho. Apparently there was an entity every time when I sleep that would have sex with me as well. I wouldn't take back the experience because I feel like now I can be a voice to people. I can actually say, "Listen, it's nice. Yes, they're putting on their Louis Vuittons, their Gucci's, their Chanel's, and all these other brands. But that they don't tell you guys the downside of it. Don't you ask yourself, who's going to wake up and give you 5K for just being pretty, guys? Let's be honest with ourselves.
Interesting insert. Clearly, Unozipho has had a change in heart in terms of the lifestyle that she wants to pursue. But we obviously want to unpack this very important conversation around the slave queen culture that we're seeing in our society. And to help me basically take this discussion further, I am joined by author and social activist Jackie Phomotse, as well as femininity coach Didi. Ladies, a very warm welcome to Expressions.
Thank you so much for having us, Jax.
You know, this is such an interesting conversation because obviously we're wrapping up Youth Month, and I just want to find out from you, Didi. You know, I saw the video that you prepared on social media, and you were talking about the fact that, I mean, you know, there's no way in which you are going to give any kind of sexual favors without some kind of money, and if your life is going to be elevated, there must be some kind of like a compensation for it. And for people out there who are saying, but why can't you do that for yourself? I mean, how would you respond to some of that, to some of those comments?
I think women can do everything for themselves, but you shouldn't engage sexually or be in a relationship with somebody who cannot elevate your life. You cannot be in a relationship with somebody who cannot take you out, who cannot improve your circumstances, who cannot improve your lifestyle. So that's what I teach women in terms of femininity, that if you're going to have a partner, it needs to be somebody who's improving your life or adding to your life.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of the criticism comes in to say that there's so much that has been done around women's movements, women's rights, and so forth. I mean, we fought so hard to get to a place where women can actually be independent and stand on their own. Do you feel that individuals such as Didi are actually taking women's, you know, progress and movements backwards?
Absolutely. It's honestly just an illusion. It's very nice to say that you have to find somebody who can elevate your life, but the reality and the circumstances of our country don't necessarily speak of such, because when you look at how women are abused in relationships where there's extreme power imbalances and money per se, and it's so unfortunate that we can say, and we can all sit here and say, okay, go into a relationship with somebody who can elevate your life, but what is that person's intention for their relationship, which is the opposing party, right? Yeah. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go into a relationship because I want you to elevate my life, but is the other person also saying the same thing? What are they going to say about you? It's quite sad, because now we're adding these terms and illusions into young people's minds, forgetting that society doesn't really give women what they want. But if we say it's one-dimensional, that's problematic.
But, and maybe the question I have to ask you, sorry to cut you, maybe the question I have to ask you, Didi, do you really think that it is one-dimensional? I mean, look, and we have to be able to represent both sides of the coin. I mean, there are women who are talking about the power of the V, and we cannot, there's power in sexual energy and so forth. So why are you proud of this? I mean, do you look at this as you owning your sense of power? Because, I mean, you can be academic, you can be whatever you want to be in life, you can be professional and when you're like, this is my vocation in life and I am doing a good job at it. So I just want to know, what is your position around that? Is this really just the power of the V, or is there something else that's going on within you that might be a little bit problematic?
Okay, sorry, I'm really proud of my lifestyle, because this is how I've always seen things. My father was a provider to my mother and our family, and that's how I was raised, that the man is a provider and a protector, and a woman is a lover and a nurturer. I think with the movement and the coming forth of things like feminism, they've taken women outside of their nature, which a woman's nature is to nurture and to love and to take care of the home. It's nice that women these days can work and have careers, but from my consultation that I do as a femininity coach, so many women are exhausted from going to work, having a career, going home, being a mother, being this, being the emotional backbone, but because the structure of nature created it in such a way that a woman was made to nurture and bring children into themselves in terms of values and this, while the man goes out and creates financial stability.
So wait, are you saying that this is really just about going back to the basics, traditional relationships, you know, that we've had in society? With the man is a provider. He actually is supposed to create financial, economic security for the home. And here you are, Jackie, you want to go and work hard and so forth. And you're busy criticizing people like what Didi. I mean, let's bring that closer to home. and say, what is the message that we're sending out there? And is it right for us to expect Didi not to have her own message? I mean, we're saying women's rights, so she's got a right to choose whatever lifestyle she wants. So why is her lifestyle wrong and problematic?
Definitely, there is a market for her lifestyle. There are people who are willing to cater for her lifestyle. But are we saying that all young women should just sit at home and be catered for? When we are smart, educated, we are able to work, and there is opportunities that are given to young people to have that financial freedom. Yes, it's beautiful to have a man that can cater for your needs, but it should not be your only source of income. It should not be your only goal in life.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, and I think this is the interesting conversation around freedom, because isn't the whole point of freedom is to create a space where you can have a Didi and a Jackie, women who think completely different in terms of how they see their financial security. I mean, it's up to you as a young person to basically make that decision for yourself. We continue after the break on this very important conversation. You're watching Expressions.
Siphinde sinibingele sinamukele sihlezi nathi la ku-Expressions. Now, udaba olukhulu namhlanje sikhuluma ngawona ama-slay queens on the show. What do you have to say about the conversation that we are having? As we've seen some of the conversations that have been had around this particular practice in Mzansi Africa. Sabona again abantu ba-retweet the so-called Dubai girls. What do you have to say about the conversation we're having? Namhlanje Ashley Pidi is a young person who mentors ulusha as well as young men. It's great to have you on the program. Welcome, man.
Thank you, Mesa. Thank you very much.
So, sizwile ke ku-first segment, abo sisi bakhuluma ngale no Jacqueline, right? We have this breed of women and the boy child. Where does he come in this whole thing, and what conversations should the boy child be having, ikakhulukazi when it comes to our conversations afana nalawo?
I think for the boy child, the most important thing is to understand yourself first. I think we need to understand the dynamics between relationships between two people. Relationships will always be transactional, whether there's the V involved, right, the sexual benefit of it or the financial benefit of it. Now, I understand that it creates a lot of pressure for amatota out there, right, because now you have to be financially, okay, in order for you to have access to a relationship. And I understand it makes them feel depressed, and suicide rates, and obviously as well, the unemployment rate in South Africa means that a lot of men, are left, without relationships because, they don't have the financial means. At the same time, it's like if all the women in this country were to become gold diggers, all men will be forced to then raise their standards in terms of employment, because we do know that there's a couple of gents, that are just, comfortable, just sitting at home doing nothing and not getting out there and securing their bag. They are not living their best life, so they're not utilizing their masculinity to the fullest extent. Like I said, bringing sex or sexual benefits to the relationship is the bare minimum. Bringing financial provision to the relationship is the bare minimum. The things that make relationships last longer are the other things that we are not talking about. So don't be too scared, don't feel depressed when you don't have the money to date a slay queen. That's a limited number of women. Most women in society back-rent.
Something that's also interesting is that watching some of from our Voxies, word on the streets from young people, is watching how divided ulusha are on this particular matter. Should we really be concerned to say that there's actually young people who, take lightly to this practice?
The thing is, I think the youth itself, I think from 18 until like 30, most of us are confused and we don't even know what we are doing. We are all bombarded with content, abafazi bafuna provide and tonton and all of these things, But I think we really should be having these conversations, just basic understanding of the female nature, the masculine nature, and don't bash the slay queen. Like I said, it's in their DNA to seek out for, men that provide. And then it's still in the same DNA for a man to seek out for a physically beautiful woman. That's why men are willing to do everything to risk getting sexual access for a woman. And then women are willing to do anything to risk getting financial access for a man.
Okay, Ashley Bali is, of course, a young man who mentors young gentlemen, and he was helping us dissect lenkulumo le baluleke kakhulu. At the back of that, I'd like for us to also check in with Gogo Dabuluvalo, who further dissects this important matter and talks to us about a certain element and a practice that comes into this. Bati ukuthwala. It's very scary and also great to watch. Please have a look.
Ama-slay queen ayenza la. Afune into okubamba yini abantu abanemali. Kodwa ngifike ngibacebise ngithi mamelani phela labantu laba baza kithi sibathwalise. kumele si-understand ukuthi yini i-slay queen qala. I-slay queen umuntu ohamba uye eklabhini anganamali afuna uku-expecta umuntu oyisilisa ukuthi amenzele izinto akwazi ukumbamba lo muntu yena ufuna yini imali yakhe. Lo muntu ofuna amthengele imoto ufuna amthengele umuzi, kodwa labantu laba kanti naye akazi ukuthi lo muntu unento aphila nayo, unesithwalo anaso. Abanye banesithwalo senyoka, abanye banesithwalo sama-boys, abanye banesithwalo samantombazana, sama-contract. Mangalala nawe nginesithwalo ne ngithwele mhlambe ngenyoka mhlambe nge-contract, ngalala nawe ngiqedile. Into engiyifunayo nje ukulala nawe phela.
Impilo of that young girl ibanjani?
Isidumuntu mamela, lento leni iphila ngesimo sakho senhlanhla. Ubona into zakho zingayenzeki, chithekelwa izisu ekhaya kuyahluphekwa. Khona umuntu ongakunika umuzi wakhe angashadanga nawe, every month yakumaintaina, bese kube ne-room lelo ongakulivule noma ngayenzwakalani, le room awulivule.
Wena gogo uyathwalisa, bayafika kuwe bathi siphe.
Ukuthwalisa ngiyathwalisa sithanda sami. Futhi akusimfihlo ne, ukuthwalisa phela ukuthwalisa akusinto wrong. Uthola umuntu isibaya sakhe sigcwele qhu, umunye ophila nemikhofu lesiphila nayo thina namhlanje. Very good.
Ndifuna ukwazi ke ngoku the success stories zalamantombazana.
Bayithola indoda ngento enemali, bayeza ngibanike lento, bayenzele ngendlela yakhona ne, sithi hambe uye endaweni so vele uzoba successful.
Ungathi mhlambe uyabakhuthaza amantombazana uba bangene in this lifestyle?
Yabona masikhuluma ngalokho sithinta leyo nto leyo ne, ukuthi ngiyabakhuthaza. Akekho umuntu mina ngithanda ukubona umuntu ahlupheka, umuntu makakwazi ukusimela.
Ingaba mhlambe uyabaxelela bana these are the disadvantages ezizawuza emva kwalento soyifumene?
Mamela, umuntu makaze kimi ngiyinyanga ngisangoma, mina ngiyalapha angithakade ne, wonke umuntu mafike kimi kodwa nokuthakada ngiyathakada. Umuntu ofuna ungilinga kodwa kumele azi ukuthi ngine-army. Lento leyo ukuthi ingane zakithi la eSouth Africa ziqhelazeke, ziqhelazwa abantu abangaphandle nabantu abala ekhaya, kumele iphele lento le, ngoba at the end uba an object. Lento lena isithwalo mawubona umuntu ne, umfana ufaka ama-Gucci ama-Louis Vuitton ne, it's an object of deception. Ubona uGogo Dabuluvalo, but ngemuva ukuthi Gogo Dabuluvalo yini lephilayo, it's an object of deception. What not they appear to be.
You're still watching Expressions, your #1 youth current affairs show. We're putting a very important spotlight as we wrap up Youth Month on this culture of slay queens. And of course, we want to find out, the young women who are acquiring this very lavish, material lifestyle. Is it really worth it, especially when it comes at the exchange of sexual favors? So ladies, we have to wrap this conversation up. And it was quite interesting, I think, just listening to Umko as well as our guest, around, what women bring to the table. And I just want to find out from you, Jackie.
Be clear about what you want out of the relationship. Don't just say, okay, I don't want money, and then halfway through you're like, but he's not giving me money, And if you don't, just also be clear and say, I've got a job. The only thing that I need from you maybe is love and for you to pay attention and maybe assistance here and there. But just have clear intentions so that you don't become resentful when your partner is not doing certain things, and you don't become envious towards other people when certain things are not given to you.
What are the dangers of pursuing this type of a life as a slay queen?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. We look at, we just had the conversation, the video from Gogo, who was speaking about the dangers of ukuthwala, for example, It's the medicine that people use to keep relationships, traditional medicine. It's also poisoning of men to keep them, because they're thinking that if if he always needs me, he will love me more. If he beats me up, he will love me more. If I give him more sex, if I agree to all the orgies that he wants me to do, he'll stay there. And then you've got the issue of people getting human trafficked because they date people that are foreign and they want money from foreigners and many other aspects, you know.
So it's not as lavish as we think. And Didi, for you, I mean, you live this life. I mean, you've got a whole social media content page around it where you are giving young women advice. I want to know, what is the cost that goes into what you do? I mean, we don't want to paint this as just easy peasy, but what is the price that you are paying in order to have this lavish lifestyle that you're living?
Personally, for me, the cost is you always have to keep yourself up. That has been the cost for me. I cannot afford to go around wearing Uggs and not having my makeup on. I always have to look on point. I have to watch my weight. I have to watch the way I present myself. Because men who do like to provide, they're not going to go for you if you're not taking care of your looks. So for me, I understand that there's different dangers and different costs involved, but I haven't experienced that. The biggest cost for me is that I have to spend time and effort on my looks.
Okay, and your soul, your heart, your spirit, your sense of humanity, is there no price to that? I mean, are you not looking for love? Is it just really purely about money for you? So long as I offer 50,000 every single month, whether he loves you, he doesn't love you.
I think my soul is doing really well because my bills are paid. My soul would be really disturbed if I didn't have food in my fridge, if my bills were not paid, if I didn't have a way forward with my dreams and my visions for myself. That would kill my soul. So are
you still able to negotiate sex for yourself, the type of sex you want, consent? Are you still able to negotiate that?
Well, as a femininity coach, I actually teach women that the longer you go without giving it to them, sex, the more they're going to spoil you, because they spoil you for the hope that they will one day sleep with you. That is actually the one thing I push to the forefront with the ladies that I coach, that keep it for as long as possible. My sugar daddy, I haven't slept with him since March, and he's been paying all my bills, okay? So he pays my bills, I make sure I get what I need to get, and sex is not in the forefront for me.
Okay. You're both young women, and I think just as we close up this show, and obviously we close up our Youth Month content for expressions, what is the message? 30 seconds, ladies. What is the message that we want to send to young people, young women out there who are looking for social and economic mobility, who want to do well and elevate their lives? Jackie, let me start with you.
Choose you. Just choose your mental health, your physical and emotional health. Choose your education if you're able to pursue that. The opportunity cost of dating somebody is not always guaranteed. You can be moving from one person to the next, but whatever works for you, make sure that you are in a safe environment to make decisions for yourself.
And our femininity coach, Didi, 30 seconds, closing comment.
My closing comment would be, do not sleep with a man who cannot elevate your life, who cannot fix your problems, who cannot help you in a financial emergency. You may as well be single. If you're going to struggle while you have a boyfriend, you may as well be single. That's my message to the young ladies and gentlemen out there.
Well, thank you, Didi, who is our femininity coach, and of course, author and social activist Jackie Phomotse. Thank you so much for having this very, enlightening conversation around this culture. Thank you so much, ladies. I don't know, I think my brain is kind of like just buzzing a little bit, but I think it's very important for us, Kochaye, just to make sure that we send the right message to young people. I think there's a menu of options that you have out there, but I think what's important for us as expressions is to say, please make sure you're safe. Hey, women are constantly vulnerable in our society. Make sure that you're safe, but obviously make sure that you're empowered in whatever choices and decisions that you make about your body.
Indeed, and of course, all the opinions that are expressed on this platform on face value, it's those opinions of our guests on the show, and we of course provide a variety of voices on the show, Mutomosha. And thank you so much for your participation on this particular topic. See expressions till next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
And watch this performance that we've put together for you. Enjoy.
life.